Now,
What happened?
and nothing. I just wanted to wait for some people, but it's okay.
Right on. Right on.
Welcome to Stay Brown Podcast, everybody. We're your hosts. We got Benny and Carlos, and we have a special guest tonight. What's going on, Benny?
Not a whole lot. We got the whole world's going. The United States is going to crap in a toilet bowl real fast.
Real fast.
Yeah. So we got Maribel, and I think she's gonna touch on a few things, and we want to be as truthful as we can. We want to share the good and the bad. Always, we're not always gonna be one sided. But we welcome her to the show. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you so
Maribel?
much. Thank you so much, Carlos and Benny. Thank you
Welcome.
so much for
Welcome.
having me here with you all. It really is an honor. So my name is Maribel Mendoza. I am one of the co-founders and executive director of Hijas del Campo, and we are a nonprofit that's based here in Contra Costa, and we support the campesinos, all the farm workers, our gente that are working the fields here in California. It's an honor and it's a privilege, to do this work and to be able to support our farm workers here. Recently, now con todo lo que está pasando with everything that's happening, the attacks that we're seeing, that we saw in Chicago, everything that we saw in Minneapolis, we're seeing in Minneapolis, Arizona, Georgia, LA, and what's potentially going to be happening at the Super Bowl too. They've talked about how they're going to
Yeah.
bring in a mass of agents, to Santa Clara, San Jose area. It's frightening. And so because of that, because of all of these things that have happened, we started what's called the East County Rapid Response Coalition. And the idea of that is nothing for community without community, and how we're looking at community defense. So this coalition includes Hijas del Campo and other nonprofits here in East Contra Costa. And we've been really grateful that we partner with other rapid responders in West County and also Central County. So there's
Mm.
Reimagine Richmond that we partner with, and we learn a lot from them because they've been doing community defense as it pertains to police and cómo se les pasaba la mano, and now there's the Concord Immigrant Protection Network who also got together, and so we're all working together to make sure we are protecting community. And we need more. We need more gente. We need more volunteers to really spread the word. So that's just a little
Are you
bit.
are you guys a 501c nonprofit?
Hijas del Campo is, yes.
Is Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you
We
can you
are a
can
nonprofit.
you're more than welcome to we could send us your social media accounts, and we can, if you want us to
Yeah,
repost them, share and like. I understand that,
absolutely.
it's crazy because we want to express our constitutional rights, freedom of speech, freedom of
100%.
protest, but this,
Hmm.
unfortunately, this administration sees that as domestic terrorism if we
Hmm.
are not aligned with their ideas, and we counter, we out there peaceful protesting and voicing our First Amendment. They consider us a terrorist group.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
we do, at this time and age, we do need to be very careful on how we do things, because we're not domestic terrorists. We
No.
just, the way I see it is that we just have compassion for people. You know, February 2nd we celebrate the peace treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and that's the day
Yep.
when the border crossed us, and a lot of
Hmm.
Chicanos and Chicanas got, quote unquote, left behind here. But in the
Yep.
peace treaty, it talks about them being protected and keeping their land and being peaceful, and being able to prosper. But that never happened. They
Yep.
murdered, killed, they took our lands, they took our ranches, they took, they stripped us of all that. um and that's kind of like, it's history repeating itself. We're still doing the same
Right.
thing. But you guys are out. Are you guys out there? You guys are out there on the front lines, right?
Yeah. So we have a lot of our team. We are doing canvassing, so we're actually going around in neighborhoods, taking out red cards, but also sharing our rapid response line, sharing like know your rights, which is incredibly important. Really just connecting people with information. What's a family plan, right? Un plan familiar, right? Like if something were to happen, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the red card right there.
Yeah.
Sharing that information with people. What happens if you're confronted with an agent? What should somebody be doing in those moments to protect themselves or to have video, right? Like even just something as simple as like taking a video. People think, oh, pues eso, ¿pa qué sirve? But it does work because we see what happened in Minneapolis this weekend and the story that they were trying to tell us from a government perspective.
Yeah.
However, because we had literally so many community defenders out there, taking video from so many angles, we saw the truth. We know what really happened out there. And we saw how they were agrediendo and pushing him. And even after, he was a licensed carry, he had had practicing, the right to bear arms and had a license for it, right? But it wasn't even out. And the story that they tried to spin was that this man was over here like scaring people and was doing something violent. They didn't even know he had it on him for a minute because he had his phone in his hand.
My input on that is everything. I mean, now I'm not gonna say everything was good up until that point, but let's just say, for instance, for argument's sake, everything was, they were doing the right things. Pepper sprayed him. He was on forge. There was about 5 or 6 agents, I call them terrorists, on him. There's video of one of the terrorists grabbing his sidearm, pulling the sidearm away from him, walking away. Now, this is where I can't wrap my head around it. They didn't just shoot him once. They shot 9 to 10 times.
No, it was 10 times.
10 times.
Fue uno. It wasn't just one of them.
That's murder. That's murder. 10 times. That's uncalled for.
100%.
That's excessive use of force. Okay, so let's say he was even fighting back. Let's say he was trying to throw patat. Let's say he was, fighting back, whatever. 10 times is unjust. That's just beyond me. And then how people can try and cover that up. That's just it's crazy, the world that we're living in right now. I wanted to ask you about
the argument that I was just going to say, but that's part of the biggest argument right there is that when they're hiring these people, they're not doing their due diligence, right? There's actually been like January 6ers who have been hired to be these agents, right? Yes, exactly. They do not always, and this has been an investigative report. So the New York Times has a podcast, and there was a reporter who went through the hiring process and went out and actually, went to one of their conventions, and she didn't realize it. But after going through, the interviews and everything, they hired her. She hadn't completed her background check, and she hadn't even completed her, substance check. And they had a day of start for her. You know what I mean? Like, so these are the people that are being hired, and why they're saying like it's really frustrating because they're not trained. They're not trained to be out there. And it's also very it's a tough topic too, because we already know how in some places how out of hand police can get with community. And you can even talk to like our Black brothers and sisters, a lot of our gente, and how they are treated by the police too. But they're supposed to be trained, right?
Well, I heard there
and
was a lot
these
of there
folks
was
aren't.
a lot of the matter of fact, the founder of the Proud Boys, who was found guilty and charged for the insurrection on
Hmm.
January 6th, the one
Yeah.
that Trump pardoned, is
Hmm.
actually part his. The Proud Boys are part of ICE. I've seen pictures of him.
Hmm.
There's these other guys called the Jack Six or JK6, which is another white supremacist group, are
Hmm.
also with ICE. And then I heard through the grapevine. I'm not trying to spread rumors, but this is just what I heard. Maybe someone could verify. But a lot of, I think it's the Israeli army, IDF or something like that, is also part of the ICE thing. It's not some other foreign
You can look at
military
the
people.
tácticas. If you look at the tactics, and that's what a lot of people have said, that when you
Hmm.
look at IDF tactics and how they police our brown brothers and sisters in Palestine and how they've treated them, that many of those tactics is what you're seeing happening now.
Yeah.
And especially I think there was, and also somebody check me if I'm speaking out of place here, but también how Border Patrol was trained. I think there was general training that was between IDF and the Border Patrol. So you're not far off on that in saying that at all.
So talk to us about the rapid response. Is that
Yes.
What does that look like?
Yeah. So we look at, so rapid response is multiple layers, right? There's before somebody gets detained, there's
Mhm.
and then there's after somebody gets detained, right? And so I think what's really important is that people understand that these are both important and crucial aspects of rapid response. We need the lawyers, we need those people that are going in and representing our gente before before they're deported out, or those that are in a lot of these detention centers, like the one in California City. So we absolutely need the legal aspect of it. What we do is we look at community defense and how we are actually giving people the tools and the knowledge and the information in order to protect themselves before they are detained, right? If somebody
Giving
has
them
an
that
asylum
knowledge.
case coming, yep.
Yeah.
If somebody has an asylum case coming up, do they have the proper information before they go to their court, right? Have they filed the right paperwork, right? On time? Because a lot of the times it's representation before you even get to the court date, because I don't know about y'all, but I know that it can be very difficult to even understand legal documents, right? And so now
Yeah.
you have our, right? Like 100%, it's very difficult, right? Forme esto para esto, forme el otro para el otro. It's hard. And so one of the things that we look at the beforehand is that aspect, helping people understand it, educating your community, but also building community within your neighborhood, knowing your neighbors. But it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be best friends, but how do we get and connect with each other? If there was to be an action in the neighborhood, our rapid response came because we didn't have the support that we needed out here. And so we said, you know what, if it's not going to be us, right, then who, right? Because we went out and we tried to reach out to people, who were doing legal support here in our county. And they thought we were crazy. They're like, well, we're focused on this aspect of it. And then, it got really difficult. And so we said, okay, fine. Then we'll put it together. We will organize and we'll link up with others who are directly working with community. And so that's why we're asking to bring more people in, right? Those organizations who interface with our gente. And it's not just Latinos, right? We're talking of, look at what happened, in Minneapolis, they were going after. So we're looking to connect and build the network. And also, a lot of the times you'll see, oh, la migra está acá, right? And it's not. It's a different action. It's a police action, but because we don't know how to distinguish what a police uniform is or what a tactical uniform is, right? That's not associated with, with ICE or Migra or DHS. Our people are scared. And so what we do is we send people out to survey the area, to monitor the area, so that way we can share that out with our gente, so that way they can be at ease and know, oh, it's not, or if it is, oye, no vayan por acá, like don't go in this area, stay away. And that way we can keep them safe that way, that way too.
So you guys,
that's just a little bit.
Yeah, that was a little bit. So the education part of it is very, very crucial, because a lot of times
100%.
when this is kind of a new thing, this is really nothing. It's a police state or a police country. I was reading an article. One of the things that make a country a third world country is when the military polices the cities or police the state. That's one of the categories of being a third world country.
Right.
My question is, like, how are we so great? What's so great about it? There's nothing great about it, and I think in my opinion, they're weeding us out because they're really not focusing on any other people of color. They're focusing on us, and they've been doing this for years, since the day they moved the border. They've been trying to get rid of us, and I don't think they'll ever.
They've done it a few times.
Operation Wetback, yes, they did. Operation Greaser, they sent back millions of Mexican Americans who lost their homes, their cars, their jobs, their properties, and who gets all this stuff? The government. It's just like the Native Americans. They move them to res, and then the American Indian Relocation Act. They would get certain tribes to move to the city on a promise they're going to educate them and give them money for this and that. That they never did that, but also they moved them out because they found the minerals that they're looking for on the res, and they were trying to move them out. But
I think it has happened to people of color throughout this country in different ways, right? Even when you look at the prison system and how it really has gone after, like, our Black community members, right? The policing of our Black community members. This is, this is just a different way, right? They're coming after us with this tool, right? To try to silence us, to try to quiet us down, and to try to regain the power. I mean, when you've seen a lot of the rhetoric, even using like an old Nazi song on one of their like social media campaigns. I don't know if it was like a Proud Boy or like a white power song that they use on a social media, right? Campaign, and so like, it's important to understand this is them trying to say, okay, yeah, y'all were cute, and now we're going to try to quiet you and
you're cute.
And this also is, I highly believe, it's also like, a class issue, right? It's a class issue, it's a race issue, and it's another way that they're making money off of us. Because even if you look at a place like California City, where our gente are literally being kept at, I heard from an attorney yesterday who was saying, they have clients there, and, even to buy a sweater, they keep it super cold in these detention centers. Si quieres un suéter, you have to pay $25. Si quieres un vaso, like, they give you a tiny cup. But if you want a bigger cup for lunch, you got to pay $6 for a bigger cup, right? So they have commission, like, what is it called? Commission, like where you put money on their books.
Oh yeah.
Commissary.
Yes.
Commissary.
This is a money making system, and they're making money off of our backs, hand and foot, right? Just the same way that they have with the prison system. It's the same way that they're looking at making money off of our backs now. And they're terrorizing our community, and they're terrorizing the youth. So what is that going to do to generations of children, of kids?
It makes it a lot harder for us to have trust in our government. It also, for me, it also solidifies more of my theory that the Constitution wasn't designed for people of color, but the jail system was designed for people of color. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it wasn't,
Mhm.
it's just more in my head. It's just more, it's just confirming more of my theory about it. Because I don't think the Constitution was made for all men.
No, but and we know
Or
it wasn't. We know it
no,
wasn't, right? Like look at the slaves, right? They thought of them as like a three
a
quarters
third
or a third of a man. They
of a
didn't
human
look at
being.
us as a
And that's
human
still in the
being.
Constitution. Did you know that? That's still in the
I
Constitution. They
didn't.
still haven't revised that. It's still in the
Right.
Constitution. People of color are a third of a human being. In the state of Texas, for every 3 black people that vote, it equals 1 white vote. That's going on still today. It's
I
crazy.
didn't realize that. But one of the things that I think that is really important that we talk about is why there needs to be strategy, right? This is
Yes.
the government, and I do think that it's important that we have people fighting from all different areas to represent all of our communities, right? Not just brown communities, it's black communities, it's the Asian communities. Like we need to have people who are able to speak for us, right? My parents came here from Mexico, right? I was born in Oakland, and one of the things that I think has been incredibly important that I make sure I've always done since I was 18 was vote, right? Because they didn't have that opportunity to do that in Mexico. I think that
Mhm.
now we are starting to see a lot more people, right? Like the Alejandra Cortezes, but then you also have people that are in Chicago. Oh my God, what is her name? Adela. Anyways, I'll send it to you guys. But, Mexicana, chingona, who is out there fighting, who has confronted Kristi Noem on multiple occasions, who actually
Nice.
gave her papers to resign. So, like, I think that when we look at the government, this is the government, right, that we are in, but we can and we could do the work to make sure that it is working for us, right?
Mm.
How are we actually showing up in these places? Educating our kids about voting, right? Educating, the kids that are interested in going into government. How do you do that job? Because it's not an easy job. And actually working in
Mm.
all levels. It's not just, the big positions, but city council, right? We're looking at how, like the school board. We need our gente in all of those places to represent our voices and represent, like, our perspective and our lived experiences and like the things that we know that we need. Like we need those in those positions. And so we were talking about that idea, right? Desde Sin desde en contra, which is, without and against. And I think that it's an incredible idea that a lot more people should understand, because we need people from all different levels in order to make sure that we're moving the needle where our community can go from just surviving to actually thriving. And we are not thriving right now. I think that everybody's like nervous system is struggling.
So we kind of know the issue, and I'm just going to ask for your opinion. What would you think the solution would be? Because in my opinion, I think what we need
Yeah.
to do is get more of our people
Mhm.
more educated in politics and get them in a position where they can actually make a difference, because we can protest all we want.
Yeah.
We can
Which
maybe
is
just
still
scratch the
important.
surface.
Yeah.
It's still important, but
Yes.
we're just gonna that right there just kind of like massaging, because sometimes we get what we want, but then a year later it goes right back to what it was. So in my opinion,
Right.
we need to get our gente to be more politically educated and get them into the offices and
Mhm.
start that. I feel that's where we're gonna make the impact at.
100%, 100%, it is where we're going to and that's what I mean, right? Protesting is important, right? How we're
Hmm.
teaching our kids to use your voice and protesting, and that's where the seed gets planted. And then, right, like when there are people who want to get into these positions of power, not to forget where they come from, right?
Yeah.
Not to forget, why they are in those positions, and not just, who's the special interests, right? who's donating to my campaign, because I feel like that happens a lot of the time too with people. But we really need to make sure that there are people that are speaking for us and that are able to get trained, you know, who understand how to sit in some of these seats. You know, even something like redlining, right? That still happens in communities. But if we have people that are in those positions to say, no, this is not okay, I am going to vote against it, let me do my research and I'm going to tell you why, you know, that's incredibly important.
Yeah, and I understand you guys had were you guys at City Hall this past weekend?
We had we had a community defense training. We had a community defense training on Sunday, and we trained people. A lot of them were kind of beginners. We had people from like all different areas, right? Like people who are just dipping their toe into activism, into the movement, and how to protect community now. And then we had like Carlos in the house, right? Who has been in the movement for so long. And so really kind of baseline, getting people to understand the moment that we're living in and why it's so difficult, but also why we need to make sure we're using our voices. Carlos, I don't know if you want to say anything about Sunday too.
Oh yeah, Sunday was great. I mean, it was for, like you said, for a lot of people who didn't know what to do. I mean, you have packets like this, Know Your Rights, you know, you guys gave out, you know, awesome packets, you know. So I mean, the whistle packet and all that. We do have some questions though in the audience that wanted to ask that, you know, I mean, like this one: how can we help our people at the moment with certain lawyers who refuse to touch anything due to what Trump will do?
Is that so? I'm curious too with that question. Is that like a lawyer that's for a particular client? Is that at what level? I'd be curious.
And I guess the first question was, not to sound disrespectful, but what about right now? What can people do right now? You know,
tap into your rapid response. Tap into your rapid response, and figure out how to get connected with these networks. I would say is one of the most important things. And I would say that for the county here, I think it's incredibly important that people actually get tapped in. I think the other thing that is really, really important, depending on where people live, how are your senators, how are your congressmen voting, right? Because there's the budget bill that passed, and that gave them billions of dollars to do all of this stuff. How did your local congressman vote? How did your local senator vote? Call them off the hook. And if they didn't vote the way that you needed them to, put them on blast, and then make sure that you have somebody in mind that you want to run against them and take them out.
There you go.
Vote them out.
Is this rapid response thing, is this something new?
No, I feel rapid response, like community defense here in our county. Do you mean like
Well, because it's just bubbling in my head. I like the idea of rapid response because it sounds like it's something that the public need to be educated on, to know their rights just in case they do get detained. And I'm wondering if this is the first time I've heard of it. Is this something that's on a national level? Is it something that you guys put together, or is it something that, you know, you guys are doing from county to county? Are you going to county to teach this, or, you know? How did the rapid response, how did that get started? And is it on a national level?
So we're one organization that, we're one coalition that is doing that here in Contra Costa, but rapid response has been going on for a long time. If you look at LA Taco, they've been doing it now. Memo, he's been doing it for a while down in LA. Rapid response. They have really gotten together, how they're protecting their street vendors, how they're protecting the day laborers, really how they're mobilizing each other. Like dándose aguas, like, hey, we
Yeah.
were patrolling this neighborhood and we saw a potential agent, right? And notifying each other. If there was an action that was happening, they would be calling each other. So a lot of what we're doing here with our organization is what we've learned from other orgs, right? Who have been doing this work to protect community. What we saw in Chicago when it blew up. That's where that whistle technique. So Carlos just showed the packets that we made, and that's called the whistle technique, right? So that way you can alert community members, with a pitido, to let them know, like, aguas, don't come around or don't open your doors because ICE is around. And so that little zine that was created in Chicago by the Pilsen Art Center, that supports the community and supports Raza and the neighbors, right? Because Latinos aren't the only ones that are immigrants, right? Like, we're not, right? And
right.
hay gente que viene de todo el mundo, right? Who need this information and need this support. So rapid response is a way that community is taking care of themselves. And one of the things, there's a lot of trainings that are happening, and I can send you guys some of the links, but there's one that's happening. Endelon is putting a training together. I think this Friday, they're putting together a training. Bay Rising, in conjunction with a few other organizations, are also putting a training together. So we can send some of those links so that way people can get connected on the trainings that are happening in the next 5 days and next week.
Nice.
Because it's all about information, training, and learning. And the tactics are always changing from the other side. So then we always have to be updating our ways to respond también.
Right.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go.
So that kind of answered the next question, though. They're asking, how can one begin a rapid response team in their own town, especially in a red state?
For sure. Yeah. So I would try to do some digging to see if there are any organizations that are doing it right now, right? Arizona, I think, has Chispa. And then I think they also have Puente, and Arizona is different than California, right? Arizona has had where policies in place that let CBP, and I think they also operate with the police to actually stop people and racially profile them for their.
I don't think that law.
Right?
I don't think that law is in effect anymore. But there was a few years ago. I can't remember the sheriff's name. And he was horrible.
Arpaio.
Arpaio.
Yeah.
He would literally stop people just because they were brown. Literally just stop them and pull them out of their car and detain them, beat the crap out of them. And there was even some incidents where some of the women were raped.
Yeah.
And I think I want to say he was convicted, and then Trump pardoned him. Arpaio.
Yep.
Yeah. So I live in Arizona.
Okay.
So I remember that. Yeah.
It's really tough. So I would say try to tap in and find those organizations, because there have been organizations who have been working even before this term took to place, right? Who have been fighting and have been working on rapid response. So tap into that. What you can do on a micro level too is start know your rights. Like, maybe get some of those red cards, hand them out to all of your neighbors, right? Maybe create a Signal chat or a WhatsApp group with your neighbors that is quiet for most of the time until there is an absolute emergency. You know what I mean? Pero así se pueden, notificar, right? Like, keep each other up to date. Starting at that level, I think, is really, really important. And tapping in with those orgs that have been doing the work is really important también. That's one of the ways that I would say to do that.
One more question they're asking: how are you getting the information quick enough to help the ones affected by immigration?
So it depends on the routes. So, we are staying connected with people. People send us, messages on various platforms. Hey, I got word that a lo mejor están, in this part of town. And then we have people that deploy and go check that part of town to see if it is, if it isn't, what is it, there's a format that you follow that's called salute, right? What's the size? Oh gosh, I can't remember the acronym right now. But you're kind of following track. So that way you can verify si es o no es. And then from there, you can notify community, right? On that. But it's because everybody's tapped in, everybody's tapped in. Everybody is communicating with each other in real time. Because one of the things that people used to say, it was power, not panic, right? But how do you expect me? One, I'm already panicked, right?
Yeah.
And two, you expect me to feel power when I don't have the information, right? When I don't know what's happening and I'm just seeing images. So we want people to give them information as soon as we get it. So that way they know, okay, this is what's happening. For example, we had people go out to check out what was what people thought was migra, right? But it was actually a homicide unit. And the people who went out to observe it were able to ask those officers and see badges and see that it was actually a homicide unit. And then we were able to put the call out. We have Trump.
Is that another
loyalists in our
question?
government. It says we have Trump loyalists in our government who beforehand said they would do whatever Trump said. Also, ICE, from personal experience, doesn't care about the red cards. What do we do then? They don't care. They don't care. But that's for you to know your rights and for you to be able to speak your rights, right? That's why that's important. One. Two, that's why it's important that you live stream or film if you are ever in the presence. So that way that interaction can be put out there. And if there was ever a situation where they try to lie or add something that didn't actually happen, you have the proof. What we've heard from some people was that, okay, if we video, but what if they take your phone and then they erase those videos? Then you don't have the proof. So that's why some people are saying that it's good for you to actually live stream. And we know they don't like it.
Going out in pairs or, in
Esa.
groups.
Esa.
100%.
100%.
So it says being active in issues requires a combination of self-education, direct actions, and leveraging personal resources to support causes. I would love to be tapped in to advocate for policy changes.
Yes.
And to drive systemic long-term impact.
Policy changes are so important. Alameda is trying to pass right now, ICE-free zones, right?
Oh, nice.
Within their county. And so, I know that there's another organization here in Concord for the last year has been trying to pass a policy of non-cooperation. And so, yeah, I think policy is important because then it'll show you how, where those political figures actually align. Are they for the people? Are they meeting the moment? Or is it just performative, right? Or are they going to actually do the work to make sure that they are protecting all of their community members?
Here's a question. How do we support our local people in court? Our mayor in Toledo didn't accept the money from the government for ICE employment. Now these MAGAs in Ohio want him to step down. How do we support him?
I would say, keep showing up for him, I think is incredibly important. And I think that a lot of our congressmen, a lot of city council, they want you there. They want to hear from you, at least if they're there for the right reasons, right? I think that's one of the ways that you show up. and understanding like how is it that they can ask them to step down, right? But at the end of the day, it's their decision how they're going to show up for their constituents and for the people that voted for them and all of
Right.
their community members. So I would say writing them, reaching out to them, asking them directly, look, I support your decision in not taking these funds. I'd like to get involved. What do you need us to do? And how do we do
Right.
that?
Speaking at
There
the city
are
council
also,
meetings.
yep, speak up at city council meetings is so important. It's so important, for you to actually have a voice there,
Yeah.
right? And if they're not going to show up for you the way that you need them to, have the ballot box speak for you. There's an organization that I highly recommend called Mi Gente, and they are a national organization that also works on the Latino vote and how we show up in some of these places. So for people who have like some of those questions on how do we support, our local elected official who is being targeted, right? I would tap in with Mi Gente, and it's MIJENTE. Tap in with them because I see that there are people from a lot of different places that are here. And so that's one of the places that I would start too. The other thing también, they have a campaign happening right now that's called No Tech for ICE. That is really, really important. So how we're actually using certain technology. Yes. Esos.
Mi
Yeah.
gente.
Oh, whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Right on.
That quick, guys.
yeah.
Wow,
Then,
that's
what
pretty
does it say right here? Oh, yeah. Oh, that was the same question. Yes, we
Yeah.
had some really good questions and a lot of people concerned,
Thank you.
especially in their areas, and it's sad. A lot of the people are just in it for the money, or they're more worried about getting raises and being in their mayoral positions than they are helping the people.
Yeah.
They think a few cutting the ribbons of new places, new businesses is all they have to do. There's more to that
Yeah.
than just that. So
Yeah.
sorry, I just had to throw my
100%.
2 cents in there.
No,
It's
but
all
I
good.
think that's important. I think that's important to talk about, we need to make sure that they are in those seats doing the work. The other thing that I think that is incredibly important
Gotcha.
is how we are helping families. We've seen how they have picked up people at pickup lines, at drop-off lines. So if you have a kid at a school, reaching out to that school district, what is your policy? How are you working with some of the the ELAC groups?
Right.
Those are the leadership groups that they have for parents. How are you tapping in with them? And so I would say that people who are listening, like, how are you tapping in to support those families, right? There was a lot of rapid responders, community defenders who would actually go and pick up kids to drop them off for families and take them to school, right? And those are kind of some of those other ways that make a big impact for folks.
Mm-hmm.
So I was waiting for this question, and I'm glad he asked, because I was about to ask too. And it seems
Okay.
like we're being led to
Mhm.
this. What are your thoughts on organizations using their Second Amendment rights strictly in defense and show of intimidation strictly? Do you feel this is helpful or hurtful? Right?
I'm going to take off. This is Maribel Mendoza speaking, not Hijas del Campo or any other organization. This is me speaking.
Okay.
The Second Amendment right was there for everybody. Okay.
Was.
We have a right to take and bear arms.
Yep.
There's a responsible way. They are not toys, and they are not for people who want to cosplay. Okay. Like, that's important, right? The respect for the weapon. And that's why you have these dummies in ICE who are shooting people because they don't understand what is in their hand.
Right.
So I think that I think that is important. You see the Black Panthers taking arms and doing it in a very responsible way. I actually have a
Shout out to the
picture
Black
here.
Panthers. All power to the people.
I have this picture
Yeah,
here
Huey
with
Newton
me.
there. Yeah.
Yes,
Huey P.
it
Newton.
is. I was born and raised in Oakland,
Nice.
in deep East Oakland. I'm a very proud Oakland native.
Don't say Raider fan.
That's a whole different conversation we are not going to get into.
Yeah, I'm just
don't say
saying.
too deep, Oakland, or else you end up in
Yeah.
Alameda. Just kidding.
No. I said deep East Oakland. Okay.
There you go.
She was
Deep East
specific.
Oakland. Yeah. There you go.
But I think that it is important for people to understand that it is our Second Amendment right.
Yeah.
So I think that there are classes for people to take. I think that there, to even become licensed, there is like a way and a protocol to do it. I'm here for it, right?
Right.
So I'm not against it. And I think that everybody knows, and this is what I tell people, everybody knows how they need to show up in the moment and in the movement and in the times. And so that's for you to decide.
We got another question.
Mm-hmm.
What about forming human chains to prevent ICE from entering our communities? I did see some pastors and
Yeah.
that were being arrested. They were kneeling and praying. That was their chain, and that they were just tapping them, and they got up and they were arrested. I'm pretty sure they released them right after they left. I don't think they, but that's a good question there. What do you feel about human chains?
I feel like everybody's going to show up how they need to show up. There are some people who do feel like that can work, and I think that that's the right answer for them and in their moment.
Right.
But know that you will get arrested, and there's some there's some really amazing organizations that teach técnicas on how to do that, on how to form those chains, right? There's a strategy to it as well. How you link up, how you lock arms, there's a group in the front, there's a group in the back, right? There's a técnica to it. And I think that it's important to know what they are if you are going to form that human chain. And I think, yeah.
I think the crappy part about that now is that this administration is considering that a destruction, or not destruction, distraction of their investigation or something like that. Anyway, they're coming up with these excuses, obstruction of justice or something, because they're not allowing the officers or the terrorists to go do what they need to do. So I think they're arresting people on that charge or whatever, which is stupid and it's weak, and it still violates our constitutional rights.
They said you're impeding a federal
there
action,
you go.
right?
Yes.
Right.
And that's one of the things, and one of the ways that they've been getting into some of these places is they have partnered with the DEA, or they partner with other agencies, and they say that's why they're there for an action. And so if you are impeding some of those actions, then that's what can get you into trouble. But again, if somebody is in their home and they're not presented with a judicial warrant, they don't have to open the door.
No, because they could just bust right in now.
Well, now they can, but then they're also breaking the law. And a lo mejor ahorita they're gonna, not be in trouble. But I do believe, and I fervently believe that they're gonna meet the day when they're gonna have to answer for their crimes.
Yeah, and I hope and pray that that day does come. Here in Arizona, we have open carry, concealed carry. We openly carry. Here.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I openly carry all the time on my when I'm not working or anything like that. There's a saying here that we have. It's Arizona's. We keep our doors unlocked and our 40s cocked. you know, um, I've been in this house for over about 10 years now, and I travel, I go places, I go here and there. I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've ever locked my doors, and honestly, I don't even think I have keys to my front door. you know Seriously. But I have firearms, in my right next to my on my nightstand in my drawer. I got one in my truck. I've got strategically in my house, I got them in different places. But that's just Arizona. We have what they call a stand your
Mm-hmm.
ground law. If
Oh,
these
that's right.
guys Yes, if these guys that are all tacticaled out and they've got a mask on or whatever, and they're not identifying themselves, here in
Yeah.
Arizona you can stand your ground and actually shoot and defend
Yeah.
yourself. you know um so I haven't seen. I think I've heard of ICE being here, but they're doing routine traffic stops, kind of like a DUI checkpoint. And
Mm.
I,
I haven't really
oh,
heard
yeah.
anything. Yeah, I haven't really heard anything like anything crazy going off. But
I think something might
Phoenix.
have happened today in Arizona, and I saw something really quick that I think they may have. I don't know if it was CBP or if it was Migra. I don't know which agency, but I think that they may have shot somebody else, and I don't know the full details. So I
Damn.
think it was unfolding.
Yeah, well, I'll have to check that out.
Well, and you have to. It's interesting, right? Because Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great
¿Cómo
point.
le dieron?
Come
¿Cómo,
on,
like, the excuses that they made for this man, right? He
kid.
was a man. He's not a
Oh,
kid.
you
He's a man. And you got
he
to
he
treat
was.
him like a man because you were old enough
Yeah.
to have a weapon and you were old enough to take somebody's life. But they keep telling these people who are white, and they keep, oh, they're kids. They're kids. No, they're not fucking kids, right? They're not. They're old enough to understand. But it's interesting how they try to switch it. And it's why media is important and the headlines are important and the words that people use are important, because they always want to say, right? Oh, he had his Second Amendment right. Pero el muchacho que mataron over the weekend, he didn't,
Mhm,
Right.
right?
mhm.
Like, it's crazy to me how they try to switch the narrative and the story.
Well, they try to make him out to be a patriot.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, from what I understand, they even had a GoFundMe account for him, and they raised like over $1 million. I mean, he walked the street and literally shot
Yeah.
two people
Yeah.
with that assault rifle, and became a patriot because of that. That's what you call a
Hmm.
patriot. I mean, that's kind of like the same thing what ICE is doing, in the streets. They're just shooting people, and these people are
Hmm.
supposed to be patriots as well. It's I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't hold him accountable like they should. And I'll let that be a person of color buying a gun, uh, and taking it across or state lines and walking the
Hmm.
streets and shoot people. And admittedly,
Woo, child.
yeah, we'd be hung right there and then. We
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
we probably wouldn't even see the inside of a courthouse.
Yeah. I would make
No.
it.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So,
But today we need to make sure that people know their rights, that people are
yeah.
connected, and that we are building these networks of information and care and educating our gente, whether sin papeles or con papeles, it doesn't matter. How are we showing up for each other? It's going to be really, really important because
We,
they're flipping the narrative.
we have an Instagram page called Stay Brown Podcast.
Mhm.
If you can find us, like it and share it, and also if you can post any of those links on there for educational purposes, or your link to help so
Mhm.
that we can spread the word, awareness, how to donate, when's your next seminar, your next training, we can help spread the word that way. If for some reason you can't post that on our Instagram, uh, we'll get with you after the show and exchange information so that Carlos and I can post it on there. We want to help spread the awareness, because it is very important that we know our rights, and that we have some type of knowledge and understanding of what we can do and what we can't do, because we also know that if we do get detained, they're going to be in control, they're going to be in charge, they're going to dictate how everything turns out. But
Right.
knowing your rights, and knowing what to say, I think is very crucial and important.
100%.
Excuse me. So so yeah, we have an Instagram page. It's called Stay Brown Podcast. We encourage everyone to like it and to share it. And when we can post that, definitely post that information. We have our web pages. Our web page actually, our for our organization is coming together. It's under construction, but we're on Facebook. We can post the links there and kind of share that information and get it out there for you. We'll help you spread it out there.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you so
got you.
much.
Just send me your information.
Okay,
There
I'll
you
send
go.
it over. I really
Cool.
appreciate it. And then no matter where anybody is, don't forget about your campesinos. Don't forget about those farm workers who are out there working, to get the food on our plates, who still have to be exposed.
Mm,
Tap into the orgs in your neck of the woods who are working with farm workers. So that way, they know que no están solos. If you have day laborers in your neighborhood, échenle una vista, take them red cards, take them information, tap them in with the local rapid response line, protect all of our people. There's one of the things that a lot of folks are doing, they're doing buyouts of day laborers and the people who are sending vendiendo flores or like the fruteros. They're doing buyouts so they're not out in the street exposed. So that's another way, that you can directly impact the people in your community and in your neighborhood. So
yeah. Speaking of the farm
thank you.
workers, how is that how's that going with the farm workers? I mean,
Mhm.
we know that they're very important to the economy. They're very important to the farmers. I mean, we're the only ones that go out there and pick the vegetables and put the food on the table. So
Yeah.
how is that? How is that? I wonder how, if you have any information on that. How's that looking? Are
Yeah.
they being low
Mhm.
key? Are they afraid to show up to work?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's afraid to show up to work, right? If you're brown, you're feeling like you're a target in one way or another.
We're square.
But yeah,
Mm,
pero tienen que trabajar, like work can be impacted by the season, So when there's
yeah.
work, you got to get out there and you got to make that money for your family. So they're still going out there, and they're still very much exposed. I think what happened down, I believe it was in Oxnard, where that campesino passed away from the big actions, that they had down there. And ever since then, like now they're doing like smaller things that, Migra might be out in certain places,
Mhm.
around the state. But I can say that a lot of our gente are scared. But if,
Mm.
but we're grateful that we can be of support in whatever way we can, to be there for them.
Right on. Well, we appreciate you being on the show. We appreciate your work that you're doing in the community.
Thank you.
We've always felt that it's very important that we're the voice of those who don't have a voice, or are afraid to have a voice, especially now, this in this day and age. So we thank you for all the hard work that you're putting in, the education that you're putting out there, because knowledge is power, and that's how we fight this. We fight this government. And it's not just this administration; it's administrations before and past, and it's just, we've always been oppressed. But it's educating ourselves is the best way to fight all this stuff, because in schools they program us a certain way, uh to jump on their bandwagon. But when you do your own,
100%.
when you do your own research on the government and the tactics and stuff like that, you start, most people have that revolutionary mindset. It's in
Mhm.
them. They just need that little spark. And I believe that comes when you start digging
Yeah.
into the whys, and if you're curious about why this is going on, why that's going on, history
Mhm.
repeats itself in certain ways,
100%.
you know?
100%.
So, well, thank you for being on the show. We
Yeah.
really appreciate you once again.
Thank you for having me.
Once we end the show, don't hang up because we want to get some information from you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then thank you for
Yeah.
all the questions out there. I really appreciate that. And I'm really hopeful of how many people ask that question. How do I do this in my neighborhood? How do I get
Right.
tapped in? You speaking to, a friend, a neighbor, bring them into this with you. And that's how you start, building that power, slowly but surely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right on.
And thank you all for tuning in to Stay Brown Podcast. Share this video. This is going to be the video that's going to help all the different communities out there in the United States right now. We need this information out there. And I might even do some videos, like on this and this. So you guys know what the material is in here and the red card and all that. We'll have all that in the links too in the upcoming videos. So you guys know where to get this stuff at too. And you guys already know where to get the whistles at. So yeah,
Right on.
knowledge is power. Thank you all for tuning in.
Siempre.
And we'll see you next week. Be safe and God bless.